Hello, welcome to this episode from Opine Group. And this podcast is all about diamond industry. Yes, you heard it right. And I'm personally very excited because diamond is really exciting and very precious thing. And for which we have today Pranay Narvekar with us. Pranay is studious since his school days. He did his schooling from IIT Powai and then he went to IIM Lucknow. He's basically from Mumbai. And we are going to have one-on-one discussion with him about this diamond industry. Welcome, Pranay.
Thank you, Anand. Pleasure to be here.
Great. So, Pranay, I'm so excited because diamonds is the world is a glittery thing and
Right.
diamonds are forever.
Yeah,
And we are really excited to get our viewers into this diamond industry.
right.
But before that, I would like to know about your career and
Okay.
your educational background. I know that you are studious since beginning. This IIT and IIM is always very precious. But I want to know right from your schooling days.
So, like you rightly said, I've been born and brought up in Mumbai and have been here for almost the entire of my education.
Mhm.
I did my schooling at St. Mary's in Mumbai at Baikala, and then later on for 2 years I was at Ruparel College.
Mhm.
And then subsequently I got into IIT and I was there for 4 years before moving on to Lucknow, where I did my management for a couple of years.
Okay, great. So did this management always help you? So you are right since the beginning in diamond industry, or how did it go about?
So after my education at IIM Lucknow, I went into a company called Accenture.
Mhm.
Now, of course, it's a big company.
I think it was called something else, right?
So technically, when I joined, I was part of Arthur Andersen,
Yeah.
and then it became Andersen Consulting,
Right.
and then it finally became Accenture. I think when I joined, it was about 100 people was the strength.
Mhm.
Now I think probably it's a few lakh in
Right,
India,
right.
if not more. So that's, yeah, I mean, but I was always part of the management consulting division. So I've
okay.
seen various industries across the sector.
So that must have helped you really in managing this diamond industry as well.
Absolutely. So I think it gave me a good perspective of how industries work, etc.
Okay.
And then subsequently, for about 5 years, I was working in a company called Rosy Blue, which is one of
Mhm.
the leaders in the diamond industry. That's how I got into the industry.
Right.
And then the last 12, 13 years, I've been consulting for the industry.
Yeah. So diamond, again, coming back to the word diamond,
Right.
and we know diamond because how they look, the
Right.
precious looks. Sometimes who wears the diamond?
Correct.
But what exactly is this diamond? I've heard about these 5 C's: the
Right.
cut, color, clarity, carat, and
Right.
I've read a little bit about it, the certification.
Right.
But honestly, I would like our viewers to know in details what exactly
Right.
it is.
So what from a user or a consumer perspective, a diamond essentially is a form of carbon,
Mhm.
but because its refractive index is very high, it can be polished in a certain manner.
Mhm.
The facets can be made in such a manner that it's really nice and shiny,
Mhm.
much more than any other element which is around because of the high refractive index. And of course, everyone knows its hardness is one of the properties, but from a consumer perspective, it's this shiny, gem which gives it the quality. Uh, like you rightly said, there are four. Classically they say 4 C's, but there are more, about 5, 6 C's which are used by people.
Okay.
So the shape is one,
Mhm.
which is also called cut, but the cut has other implications as well.
Okay.
Then you have the color,
Mhm.
then you have the clarity,
Okay.
and you have the carat weight, which is
Mhm.
the weight of the diamond. Just to give you a perspective, diamonds are weighed in carats,
Okay.
and 1 carat is about 0.2 grams.
Oh, okay.
So 1 gram diamond would be a 5 carat stone,
Hmm.
which is quite expensive if you
Absolutely.
want to buy it at a retail shop.
Right. And what is about this certification?
So certification, because diamonds are a natural product,
Mhm.
and they are rare. The certification identifies the parameters of the diamond, like we said, the 5, 6 C's. Apart from that, there are cut, how well it's proportioned, etc.
Mhm.
So it tells you that, because that then in turn determines the price.
Okay. Okay.
As we get to better colors, better clarities, the diamonds are rarer
Mhm.
because it's a natural product, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
hence it's important for the consumer to know this, and they are able to then pay, or they ensure that they're getting their money's worth.
Okay.
Many chains both India and abroad give their own certificate as well, because
Hmm.
they are large chains with processes in place.
Okay. So now we know a little bit more about diamond. Thanks for
Yes,
that.
thank
I've
you.
also heard about the phases. So sometimes
Right,
people talk about rough and then they talk about some
right.
subsequent things. So could you please explain what are those
Sure.
things?
So the diamond, the way a diamond occurs is it's literally like a transparent or a translucent stone,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, if you look at it in the ground, and that is called a rough diamond because that's what comes out of the ground.
Right.
You might not even see it two times.
Hmm.
You might
Oh,
not give it a second look. Only the people who know or who are expecting to look for diamonds, they're searching for the diamonds. They would be able to identify those stones. From that being a natural product, whatever stone I get,
mm-hmm.
I can only reduce weight from that. I
Okay.
cannot add weight because it's a natural product,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it means I have to make the best shape out of that. So there is a process, and India is a leader in this, which is of polishing the diamonds.
Okay.
So the rough diamonds come in, they get polished into the shape of a diamond, which we regularly know, which is a round diamond.
Mm-hmm.
There are other shapes as well, like square and rectangular, etc. So the right shape is given, and then that diamond becomes a polished diamond.
Okay.
So
Okay.
all the facets are polished on the grinding wheel, and that's how you get the final polished diamond.
So from rough to polished, we are then
Right.
on top of it. How does the jewelry
So
aspect?
then, so if you move from rough diamonds to the polished diamonds, then it gets set in jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
So the designer will come up with brilliant designs, and then the diamonds get fitted into that,
Great.
and that becomes the final jewelry piece which the consumers will buy.
Awesome. So now, as Indians, I have a very curious question.
Sure.
What is about so special about Kohinoor diamond? So I
Right.
mean, we are all it's like attachment to Kohinoor. We
Correct.
all say, but what's so special about it?
Right. So if you go back historically, India was probably the first country where they identified these diamonds and were using it as ornaments or as jewelry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much before rest of the world even started finding diamonds, India had pretty much exhausted its supplies. There are very
Oh.
few supplies from the Panna fields, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But apart from that, most of Indian supplies have been exhausted by around 1750, right?
Mm-hmm.
After that, then you had diamonds coming up in Brazil, and then finally in Southern Africa, which now is a big chunk, and then of course Russia and Canada and other places.
Okay.
So Kohinoor, of course, is the famous diamond because it's big and it's shiny, and it represents the ultimate luxury and the ultimate wealth.
Okay. Great. So now I know a little bit about this industry. Thank you so much. This is really getting interesting. Now talking about this, you just mentioned about Africa.
Right.
So looks like this is an industry in itself.
Correct.
So why is this industry in itself, and geographically, how is this located?
So the diamond industry starts from mining the rough diamonds.
Okay.
Right. So the major areas are Southern Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So that includes South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Namibia, all these countries in southern, and Angola, of course,
Mm-hmm.
in Southern Africa. Russia is another big source of diamonds, and Canada is a big source of diamonds. So these are the primary sources or places where diamonds are extracted.
Mm-hmm.
There was a big mine in Australia which shut down, so there are no
Okay.
more sources there, or very few sources there. But these are now the three major sources of diamonds. These diamonds get extracted, they are sorted based on their shape and size, and then they come for polishing to countries where India produces pretty much 80% of these diamonds.
Okay.
When people ask me about India and polishing diamonds, I think we always had the skills, not just in diamonds, in other gems as well, and that we built on those skills. And I like to call it the first outsourced industry in India. Right?
Wow. Okay.
We all talk about outsourcing and how India is doing all this software work and everything.
So IT is not the only thing.
No, this was the first outsourced industry because diamonds are very easy to transport.
Mm-hmm.
A large value of diamonds can be literally carried in a small box.
Mm-hmm.
So in the 60s, 50s, 60s, these diamonds started coming to India. India started polishing these diamonds and exporting it to the rest of the world. And currently, more than 80% by value are polished in India.
Great. So talking about this industry, can you tell us a little bit about value as in numbers, like
Right.
industry
So to
numbers?
give you an idea, the rough diamonds, which are mined from the ground, they are about between 110 to 120 million carats, or let's say 100 to 125 million carats of diamonds. Rough diamonds are currently mined every year from the ground. This accounts for about between 10 to 15 billion dollars, depending on the year and whether the market is good or bad. And then these 10 to 15 billion dollars of rough becomes about 15 to 20 billion dollars of polished diamonds, which is where India's value addition comes in. And then these go on into jewelry, so you get metals, gold and silver gets added to it, and this becomes about a 65-70 billion dollar
Wow.
retail jewelry sales.
Yeah, great. So Pranay, we just talked about these processes.
Right.
So I understand these diamonds are actually we find in earth.
Right.
So because it is so rare and the market is so huge, is there any other way of creating this diamond? Like you process some artificial thing and you create it?
Absolutely. So apart from the gem quality or the gem uses, the diamond itself has got very interesting properties which can be used in a large sector of or large number of sectors, including semiconductors, quantum, all of that, right? Now, because of this, in the last few years, the technology has evolved where you actually have lab-grown diamonds.
Okay.
Right. So you can grow these diamonds. Either you put it in a machine, put pressure and temperature, and it becomes a diamond. Or you can, grow it like one of those films which if you've done your copper sulfate experiment in school, just like that, you can kind of grow that diamond. But these are all, again, manufactured items. While people say it's a diamond, yes, it's a diamond, but as a characteristic, it is not a rare item, right? So the industry is going through a bit of a flux right now where both industries are separating out from each other. So you have one industry where everyone says, oh, it's a diamond, oh, it's a lab-grown diamond. Eventually, both will find their own place. There will be a natural diamond industry, there will be a lab-grown diamond industry. But, lab-grown diamonds are there. Modi ji, of course, gifted Lady Biden 7.5 carat diamond last year. Great. So I think that is to showcase the prowess of Indian technology.
Great, awesome, great. So Pranay, now talking about these processes, there must be some data capturing here, right?
Correct.
So could you please throw light on what are the processes and how the data gets captured? See, I believe that information technology is the enabler to any industry.
Right.
Now I can see some process here, and this is so old that I believe people would probably write it on a piece of paper initially and then Excel or whatever.
Probably still do. Of course, it's now then later on fed into the systems.
Okay, but operationally, what is the process and what kind of data is captured?
So the main, so from an India perspective, in the polishing part, you have a lot of data which is captured because though I say it is polishing, there are various stages in which the shape of the diamond first gets kind of roughly made, and then different facets are polished, and then the finishing is done, right? At each stage, typically either individually, if it's a larger diamond, slightly larger diamond, or in packets, this weight has to be monitored, right? Because it's a very high value item. So even if I lose 1% extra by weight, in terms of value, it's a sizable loss. Right, so companies do have processes where they are ensuring that the process control is there. They're checking the weights of these different diamonds. They know how to cut it. So there's actually a stage called planning where even before they start cutting, they put it through equipments where images are taken. Then they actually say, okay, this is the best way I can get the maximum value out of every stone. And then the actual processing starts. Then ultimately, it goes for certification where it gets the final certificate as well for larger stones.
Okay, so now we are mostly into the diamond process.
Correct.
More about creating the diamond.
Right.
So the other business processes in organization, are they pretty much standard like any other organization?
So things like, for example, again, it's a very human dependent, right? So HR becomes important because it's not machines. It's a large number of people. In India, it does provide a lot of employment, estimated to be a couple of million people are employed in the sector. And of course, there is no requirement for high education levels. So a lot of people with moderate education can also get good employment in the sector. And then, so HR processes are, again, pretty much similar to other industries. That would be the same for administration, finance, etc. So those are pretty much similar. And of course, then once you come to polished, then it becomes more of a trading activity. So how you manage that, how you manage your stock, somewhat similar, but there are a few quirks like in every industry. And then, of course, the pricing part.
So now this is so precious and
Right.
it's very difficult to even handle.
Right.
How do they track it actually? Is there a way, there is a codification given, or I'm just out of curiosity? Because you
So,
can't just hold it like a kilo of diamonds. So,
so you have it in these little paper parcels
uh-huh.
where you put the diamonds. Some of the really small diamonds, if I'm talking about a 0.01 carat diamond, which
Right.
is 0.002 grams or 2 milligram
Okay.
diamonds, it would literally be like a speck of salt or a speck of sugar, right?
Mm.
It's that small. So there you can't track them individually. You have to put it in parcels. A lot of the mixing happens to match qualities.
Sure.
But as we get into larger stones, where we talked about certification, where people actually certify those individual diamonds, that's where you can have things like, the certificate numbers can be engraved on the girdle, so it's much easier to identify some of these diamonds.
Great. So Pranay, now talking about capturing this data,
Right.
are there any typical key performance indicators, what we call? So now that we are capturing this data,
Right.
there are two parts. One is
Right.
the operational data, and then we will go to the analytics part of it.
Correct.
So you just told about the entire operational thing. So talking about analytics, what are these key performance indicators we look out from this data?
Right. So like I said, from a business perspective, it's important to get the value out of every stone, right? So if I buy a batch of diamonds, I don't buy individual stones. It's too much, right? I mean, too much effort. So
Right.
I'll buy a parcel of diamonds.
Sure.
Or parcel of rough diamonds. So I would want to know at the end of the process, how much did I estimate it to be, and where am I compared to that estimate? Right. So there are obviously then the whole analytics comes in. Okay, which stone, what I can, if it's a larger stones, I can literally go down to a stone level.
Right.
But when when dealing with smaller stones, you will have at a parcel level saying, okay, I expected a yield of so much, I expected the value to be so much. Am I there or not there?
Sure.
Am I meeting that? All of those. And then you can even identify individual people saying, okay, how have they performed, not performed? So all typical KPIs which you would have for companies.
So data analytics, I'm sure it is big time.
Right.
And I also know, Pranay, you go to conferences all over the world.
Right.
So where do you go for these conferences, and do you really use this kind of analytics there?
So, so the analytics are much more within the company. When I go to conferences, etc., it's much more at a macro level where we are talking about the macro trends, understanding what the consumer requirements are and what it means to the polished, to the rough, all of that, and how we see these trends evolving. In terms of locations, I've been to pretty much I think a good number of Southern African countries. Belgium, of course, Antwerp is an important center, as is Dubai and India.
Great.
And US is the biggest market.
Wow, awesome. So now you explained, and this is really, really going exciting, because we are just used to see diamonds, and now you're telling the entire story behind it.
Correct.
Now, if somebody wants to get into this field,
right,
and talking about career, and even before career, some of you might be lucky that you got into this industry and you had a previous management background at least.
Right.
For those who get excited by this industry, are there any avenues to learn about this?
So, like I said, it's an industry which really does not require a huge amount of education, but you have to be aware of the product. Right? I don't work directly on the product. So if you ask me, what is this diamond, I would say, I probably don't know. But of course, the people who are working in the jewelry space, who are working in the diamond space, would want to get there or know their diamonds better. They need to be able to identify the diamonds. They need to be able to see the diamond and identify the quality, the 4Cs, plus the parameters. And then that gives them a better perspective of what the price is, and then how do you trade those diamonds, how do you ensure you meet the customer requirements. So there's a lot of customer facing activities which go on from a sales perspective.
Right.
And of course on the production side. And one big activity, at least for smaller diamonds, is the whole assortment activity. Absolutely. Where humans or individuals are actually sorting the diamonds into their different qualities.
Yeah. So Pranay, we as Opine Group, we have worked into this analytics part a little bit for some of the diamond industries.
Right.
I remember pricing was a big thing.
Sure.
So could you please explain from a data perspective and otherwise also, what is this pricing all about?
So like we started off that you asked me about the 4Cs or the 5Cs, right? So you have the various 5-6 parameters, I would say, in the main, which is the shape, the weight, the color, the clarity, and the make. What do I mean by make? Typically consists of the polish, the finish, and the proportions, right? A badly cut diamond will not really shine. But the same diamond, if cut in proper proportions, it really looks nice and shiny.
Sure.
Right? So these parameters and some more, they determine the price of the diamond. So now if I look at, let's say I have 10 color parameters, I have 10 quality, clarity parameters, 10, 15 size parameters, 5 shape parameters, and maybe 5 quality parameters. The number of stock keeping units increases drastically, right? And a change in each of these parameters does mean that the price can change. And then how do you track what is your price? What do you have? What is the market pricing at? Are you higher, lower?
Awesome.
So there's an entire set of activity
Right.
on how you track the prices. How do you ensure you're in line with the market prices as well?
Great. So I can see a career opportunity for so many. It's not just
Absolutely.
about knowing
Yeah.
the diamond, but also trying to help the diamond industry as such.
Correct.
So can one learn this? Because I can relate to what to teach in data analytics.
Right.
But from the diamond side, are there any official courses?
Oh, absolutely. I think there are a lot of institutes. So most of the certification labs will also have their training institutes.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Where they train people to do the assortment, to identify the 4-5 C's of the qualities of the diamond, and how they will of course not get into the pricing part, but at least on the physical, training your eye to understand how the qualities of the diamond can be identified.
Sure.
So that is something which anyone who
Absolutely.
is looking at the industry should look at.
The functional aspect of it.
Absolutely.
Technically, I know that we teach Excel and Power BI and Tableau, which obviously must be important only if the data is tracked
Correct.
and captured.
Correct.
Great. So Pranay, I would like you to please advise our viewers
Okay.
as to what exactly are the steps if they are really interested to know more about this and they can see a potential career into this.
Right.
And what are the steps they need to take?
So from a career perspective, I would say, first thing is, of course, get yourself trained into the aspect of diamonds. There are various courses. There are courses on the jewelry side, there are courses on the diamond side, color stone side. So depending on where your interests lie, you can actually choose which course to go for. These institutes also have counselors. There are institutes run by the Gem and Jewellery Council in India. I think there are at least 15-20 institutes across the country.
Okay.
Any of them would be a good starting point.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pranay. This
Thank
is
you.
really, really useful information, and you have helped us actually go step by step.
Sure.
And I can clearly see how data analytics can be an enabler to this industry. And thank you so much for guiding it.
Thank you, Anand. Pleasure to be here.
So viewers, this was a very, very interesting session. So far, we were only used to see diamond and get excited. But now we can go a step further, and because of today's podcast, Pranay has told us the various steps, not only from the functional side, but from the technicality aspect, how you can track the data, how you can capture the data, how you can analyze it. And yes, the same graphs and dashboards which you can learn can help the management take this industry to the next level. So you can clearly see a career path into this. Thank you.